In this video, we're going to go over how to set up your process recipes in Capture One. So I'm Daniel Norton, photographer here in New York. I make videos like this one. This one's going to be technical. It's actually a rebroadcast of a stream I did on Twitch. If you guys don't know or don't follow me there, go ahead, jump on Twitch and follow me. Pretty much every Sunday I go live in Capture One. We edit photo shoots I did. We talk about the production of it, my thoughts, how I lit it, all that kind of good stuff. We have a great community over there, guys. So if you're not part of it, go ahead and join. In any case, let's get to this. All right, so the ways that I normally output things, the very first one I usually call for models, right? So models. Generally, models is anybody that I'm photographing that I'm giving images to that aren't like a client, like a catalog or a commercial client. So they don't need the full-size images. They don't need raw images. They basically need JPEGs. And they don't even need gigantic JPEGs because they're not going to use them, you know, and then they're not going to want to deal with it. Buffering. Uh-oh. Is it still buffering? Because it shows a good connection here. I know there's a delay. Yeah, your hate for Photoshop runs deep. I'll find there. Okay, yeah, it's gotta be. Yeah, I will say that. Yeah, every year when my Adobe subscription comes up to renew, I'm always trying to figure out a way to not renew it. But I use Photoshop. I don't use it all the time, but when I need it, it's just great. All right, so we're going to start. We have this one called models. So the way that I normally, and of course you can deliver any way you want. I'm not saying this is the right way to deliver, but this is how I do it. And very rarely, I mean, every once in a while somebody will ask me for a bigger file, but generally speaking, this is more than enough for most people. I'm not going to give them a TIFF file. Again, it's gigantic. They don't need it. I'm going to give them a JPEG with the finest quality though, right? 8 bits. I think all JPEGs are 8 bits. I don't need to change that. Icc profile. I am not going to give them Adobe RGB because where they're going to show it and how they're going to deal with it is almost always going to be sRGB. So I'd rather do that translation for them, right? So I'm giving them an sRGB file. That way, Capture One is doing the processing versus giving them, let's say, a TIFF in Adobe RGB thinking I'm giving them the best file possible, and then they use some app on their phone and they make it a JPEG with sRGB, and it's some $10 app that doesn't have the power that Capture One has. So I just give them to them this way, right? The scale is going to be fixed, not fixed rather, I should say. The scale is going to be long edge is how I do it. So you can do it a lot of different ways. You could do, if you knew, right? I use a lot of different cameras, so, but if you only use one camera and you knew exactly what you want to do, you could put certain dimensions, you could put the width, the height, you can put the percentage. But I just go long edge, right? And then I come in and I do pixels. 2,000 pixels on the long edge is more than enough for 99.9% of people's use. A 2,000 pixel image is big. There we go, 2,000. Perfect. Now, the destination, well, I'm not going to touch any of this. This is actually not for this. Let me close this so it's not confusing. So now I have all that, right? I'm not going to open with. I'm not going to set that up because I don't want it to be forced to open with any particular things. I don't know what they're going to use. So I'll leave that as none. We're going to go to File, and then Root Folder, Output Location. This one I'm just going to put it there. So it's just going to go into the root folder. Like, I'm not going to worry too much about that, right? I don't care about file icon with the thumbnails. I don't know. I never had a problem with that, so I don't click that on. Adjustments, respect crop, right? That way I don't set up an image for a model that's cropped and then I export it and they got the thing. But let's say, again, you want to send somebody's like, hey man, I need full-size Photoshop files with no crop or anything. You can just turn off and say ignore crop, Actually, you can also do crop as a path PSD if they're like a designer, so whatever. I do not add any sharpening on output. I don't know. I get that, like, that's, people use it. I'm not going to say it shouldn't work. Metadata, I personally leave all the keywords with it unless I have a reason not to, but you can turn them off. All my copyright information is there. I don't put any of the workflow overlay or annotations because they're not opening up in Capture One, so they're not going to see that anyways. And then watermark. No watermarks. Stop with that. So no watermark. So what this is going to do, because I have my file set up with output location, root folder, it's going to actually put it in the standard output location that Capture One is set for, which if you go down here, is my output folder, which is created each time Capture One makes a session. That means if I don't touch any of this, we can see that this is going to go to users, Daniel Norton, desktop, untitled session, which is what I call this one, output, right? It's going to go right into the output folder. So let's, okay, so that one's done. And this file here is, I don't know how big it is. It's definitely bigger than 2000 pixels though. So I've got this all set. I'm going to get rid of this one now. Models, right? And I'm going to now just process this one file. And we'll just see what happens. So I'll click this one, boop. Bam, done. So now, if we go to the folder, Untitled Session, Output, there it is, right? We can see that it is 1,331 by 2,000 pixels, right? And again, that's more than big enough for any models or general person's use. Yeah. So anyways, that's that, right? So I got that one set up. Of course, I deleted them all, so now I gotta go through this. So this is good. Let me go back to Capture One. Facetune? I don't know what that is. Is your file res 72? But no, I usually leave it at 300. Well, okay, so that's actually a very good question, though. So, okay, so, you know, for most people's use, the actual, like, you know, DPI resolution, whatever, is almost never going to come up. You know, it doesn't actually matter for most people. They're looking at it on their phone, they're looking at it on a computer. But where it does matter, in my opinion, where it becomes important, is if you're going to send it to any kind of designer or whatever. Because if I open this image in 72 DPI, and I, let's say, go into Photoshop, and I add text at like 12 point, that is going to physically be a different size text than it is if I'm at 300 DPI. So that's the reason why that matters. I usually leave it at 300 because, again, it doesn't really matter to them. And I like my stuff to be at 300 because I was taught classic typography, so I know like 72 points is an inch, but it won't be an inch if you're at 72 DPI. It'll only be an inch if you're at 300, which is kind of your standard size, roughly, you know. Again, yeah, so, okay, this is a good question. So, naming convention. If you look at these images, I guess you can't really see it here very well, but when I shoot, actually, I'll do it here. When I go here, if I'm going to set up a new session, right, you can see that the name of the capture is automatically going to be called Untitled Session and then a number. And the reason why it has that name is because that's the name of my session. But what I normally would do is if I'm opening up, let's say, again, if this is for a designer, let's say the designer is, Seth's not here, so I can say it's Seth. This is Seth's dress. He designed this. So let's say I'm shooting for him. I would say like Seth, right? And then I would say spring, right? Because it's a spring dress. We'll say it's spring dress. Let's say it's spring 2021. And then I'd put the style number, which might be like pink 123, and then an underscore. And then what will happen is when the image is created, it will do that, and then it'll have the camera counter, right? So it's going to put a number after it that'll be unique, right? So now when I go to export this image, not this image, but the image that I'm shooting next, when you come over here to our export, or over here to our export, we can see that the name of the file, I didn't change anything, right? So it's going to automatically set it. You can make it change the name. I'm trying to think how to do it. Oh, here, you do it here. Don't put name in. If you want it to change, you can do it down here, right? I just have it set as image name. And in my case, my image names always start with the job name. That's just how I do it. If you don't do that, then what you can do is you can add something here. You could add like a job name, or you could just put something in front of image name. You know, if let's say I only shot it from my camera, so the files were numbered like whatever their number straight out of the camera. I never do it that way, so I don't know. What you could do is I could just put that same information here, Seth, underscore, and then again it would just take the image name, which is the name that your camera created, right? So you could do that as well. But I would do that here. That's why I always just leave it as image name, because that's just how I operate. But that is a good question. You can also change the output location from here. You can change the actual output location. Because again, output location is a generic term, right? So right now the output location is in my capture folder. But let's say I always wanted to output to, I don't know, Dropbox or something, right? I could, always. Then I could change that here. But I'm not going to do that because that's not what I would do. And again, this will give you the breakdown. So if you were curious, you would see exactly what it's named, how big it's going to be, and all that other stuff. So if you want, and also it's less than 2 megabytes, which maybe is important to you. I think that answers the question. Yeah. Right. If it's right. So the way that I name it is I always name my files. So if you look at this is named 201015 space onset space Erica, and then has a number. The number is from the camera. I was shooting videos for my onset series on the 15th day of the 10th month, which is October 15th, right, of 2020. And it's for onset, so I put that in there. But then I also listed it as Erica, so I remember who the model was. If it was just for Erica, I might say like portrait Erica Lynn Bridge or whatever, if you put her whole name in there. But I mean, I know who Erica is, so I say that now. 10 years from now, I probably will have shot like 100 Ericas, and I won't remember who's who when I'm going through my files. But I probably should have put her last name in there. But again, you can use keywording for that as well. You don't want your names to be too long. Anyways, all right. So I always use this one. The other one that I use, and you probably see me use it a lot, is one called Models Dropbox. So what I can do here is, I thought there was a way to just copy this recipe. No. Huh, I wonder if they took that away, or if I just am crazy that you couldn't do that before. Okay, well, whatever. I'm going to make a new recipe. And I'm going to call this one Models Dropbox. Okay, so the difference here, right, is that when I've used this recipe, it's going to put the file into Dropbox automatically for me, which is almost always how I deliver. So we're going to go to this one, and I'm going to go, and again, now we're on here, we're going to go back, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go JPEG, full resolution. I'm going to make it sRGB. I'm going to leave it 300 because I don't care about that. I'm going to long edge, pixels, 2000. Open with, I'm not going to set again. File. Now, root folder. I'm going to go select folder. I'm going to go to my Dropbox, and I have a folder in here called models. So I'm going to set that as my root folder. Open. And then subfolder name, I'm going to click here, and I'm going to call it, I think it's session name or job maybe. I guess job. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe it's session. Nope. I guess I gotta find it. I just forget what they call it, but it's called job or session, or if everybody knows in the chat. Can you pile up and execute several? Yeah, you can actually. Several instructions with each specific settings. Yep. Yeah, exactly. You can. If you've got more than one checked off, it will run them all simultaneously, which is actually very cool. Because you might do like a small JPEG, to the Dropbox folder, then a full-size TIFF to an external hard drive to whatever. You could definitely do that. Color space. All right, let me find this tag. Let's try. Creator's title? I don't think that would be it. Huh. Nope, that's not it. Sorry, guys. I gotta find it now. Oh, because I'm looking in the wrong place. Not subname, dir. Subfolder is where I want to put it. Man. Not session subpath. Oh, let's see. It's job, I guess is what it would be. Would it be that? I guess I shouldn't have. Oh, that's right. Okay, let me just try one and see. I think that's right. I'm just gonna hit process. I should have looked at it before I deleted it. Let's take a quick look over here in my Dropbox, in models, empty name. Okay, so that's not it. You see it made a folder though called empty name, because clearly I didn't have it identified. So I have to figure out which one that is. It's not that one. I remember too doing this the last time, and like what it's called is just not, at least to my brain, is not intuitive. Because you would think it'd be job. Document name, maybe? Ooh. Oh, yeah, there you go. Untitled session. There we go. So it's document name. Okay, guys. We'll cut that part out in editing. No. So, yeah, so what I'm going to do is I've set myself up, okay? So I've just to rewind so it makes sense. My root folder is going to be that folder that's in my Dropbox. And then for each session or each export, right, it's going to create a subfolder inside that folder called the document name, which happens to be, in this case, Untitled Session. But in the case of an actual job, it would be called the name of the person, right? You can put a subname as well. I don't use that. Again, I don't care about the thumbnails. Adjustments, again, I'm going to leave that the same. Metadata, again, the same. No watermarks, of course. So now what we've got is a system that's going to create the same size file, but it's going to put it in Dropbox for me automatically. And the cool thing is, you know, you just saw me do one, right? So the folder's there. If the folder already exists, and let's say you decide to do some more. Let's say I want to put these ones in there now. These 4, these 3, not 4. I can go back here and go process. So in this case, what it's going to do is it's not going to remake the Dropbox folder because it's already there, right? So Untitled Session, now all the images are there. But, right, if you already had, like in this case, in my output folder, if you had already had the thing processed, it will just make another one. It won't delete the one that's there. So keep that in mind. So you make sure you don't. So just to restate that, it won't redo the folder. It won't make a new folder. It'll just put them inside the one that already exists if it's there already. But it will re-export the file even though you've already done it. It'll just put an indicator on it. So in this case, this one we actually, because in our testing, exported 3 times. And it did it 3 times because each time I was testing that thing. So I'm just going to clean myself up here. Get it back, get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of these. Again, they're just exports, so they're really nothing. And the reason why I'm going to do this is because I want to show you. Now we know the basic gist, right? So now let's come over. So those 2 are ones that I use a lot. But then sometimes I want a larger file, right? So I usually have a version of this that I call 4,000 pixels. You can also do full size, it'd be fine too. 4,000, you can do full size JPEG, whatever you want. So I usually do 4,000 though, which is of course twice as big. 4,000 pixels. I come over here again. JPEG, these are all JPEGs because that's what I'm delivering to models. I'm going to change my color space to sRGB. And of course, the good thing about this, well, I mean, I guess you could do them all at once like I'm doing, but I mean, generally speaking, you're going to make a couple of these that you use the most. And then when somebody asks for something special, you just make a new one and then you always have it, right? So this one I'm going to put, again, it's going to just go into the regular spot, output location, right? Not going to touch anything there. No adjustments. Keep the metadata. No watermark. Done, right? And if I want to do the same one, 4,000 pics Dropbox, right? Again, I do that. Come back over, JPEG, sRGB, long edge, boom. Right, now we're good. And again, these all say the same. Except now I'm going to come over here to my location, select folder. Okay, my Dropbox folder, which is right here, called models, right? Open. And then again, my subfolder is going to be document name. Okay. And you can make it anything you want. Let's say, for instance, you wanted to, you already exported them all to a model. And then they were like, oh, could you make them all black and white? You could do that. And then just before you export it, just type black and white here. And it will actually add that to the, we'll do that actually. We'll do the first one, then I'll do it again. So document name. Okay, that's good to go as well. So now to answer that question, oh yeah, automator. Yep, you can do that. Yeah, we did. Oh God, when did I do that? I think that was like a live video I did for Adorama, and it was called something like 5 hacks or something. I did a couple years ago. Maybe I'll do another video. I'm not a master in Automator, but man, it's useful when you use it. I'm actually finding myself using it a lot more because I've got the Stream Deck, and you can actually have it run programs from here. So like I've made a bunch of Automator things to like change my desktop picture and do different things and open different files. So in any case, now I have all 4 of these checked off, right? And clearly if you don't check one off, then it won't do it. So no matter what one you're on, right? As long as anything that's checked off will run. In fact, if I uncheck this one and I go on top of it, it won't run that one. You know, I think it even tells you, it gives you like a warning. Yeah, see? The selected recipe will not be used for the processing just in case you know, just in case you do a mistake. So again, got to be checked off. Now what we should get is, in the models folder, we should get, what the capture file should say, we should get 2 files, one at 2000 and one at 4000. And then in our Dropbox folder, we should get the same. So let's see what happens of these 4 images. So we hit this. And again, you could do all these recipes that are pretty similar, but you could have them putting them, like, you could have one that automatically backs up to, let's say, an external hard drive or to a cloud source. You could have them go anywhere. You know, it really depends on what you want to do. You know, and depending on how many things it has to do, it will take a second to kind of click through. All right, there we go. Let's go to our Finder. And we can see that... again, it's the same file, right? So it made the second one. This is the one that's 2000. Why did it do it twice? Didn't I delete those? Oh, you know why? Because I was talking and I didn't do it right. There we go. That's why Daniel should pay attention to what he's doing while he's doing this. Whoever caught what I did wrong will get a free bag of potato chips. I was just repeating myself over and over again, but the 4,000 pixel one, you need to clearly make it 4,000 pixels. There we go. This one too. I know you guys saw that and you just didn't want to call me out on it. All right, so let's try that again. Yeah, you can't post links. Oh, yeah, world backup. There you go. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, Capture, it does a pretty good job cranking out the images. I mean, this is a 2016, I think, maybe 2015 MacBook Pro. So it's not super old, but it's, you know. Okay, so we see here what we have here. So again, assuming that you're not necessarily going to be handing somebody 2 different size you know, images that often, or if you are, they know what they're doing. But we can see here, right? These 2 are the same image. This one is 4,000 pixels. That one's 2,000. Now, let's say, though, that you were in this situation. You were like, oh, man, I don't like that it adds a 1 to the end. I want to make sure that all my files are named the same. Well, here's where you could use this, right? We could come in here and then just put This is the 4,000? Yeah, 4,000. That should. Yeah, I'm just going to do that one so I don't do them again. So it should, once we do that, it should actually, let's see. I've never actually done this before, but it should, based on how Capture One generally works. It should make the folder and then it should say 4,000 after it, basically. Is that my Dropbox or is that in my Capture? That's in my... Oh no, it will be in Dropbox. Yeah, there it is, Dropbox. And now here's all the 4,000 pixel ones. And again, you could do that in your regular output. Like I did it in the Dropbox one, but if I was to take that away, actually, let me get rid of that. If I were to, okay, so again, let's say that I've got two different things. I want to do models and 4,000. So I'm going to give them 2,000 and 4,000. And I want them to be in two separate folders, right? What I would do is I'd click on both of these, right? And then I would come to one of them, or you could do it in both of them, I suppose. And in my output location, right, I would just make a subfolder. So let's say this one I'll call the subfolder small, right? And then in this one, large. Okay? And now if I'm going to run those two executions, and I've got these 4 images, and I hit this, it's going to crank through them, right? And what's going to happen is we're going to get, should get 2 folders inside of our, oh yeah. Yeah, I agree with that, Richard. It's like, yeah, just the idea of thinking about how you name and file. It's like when you, if you ever like programmed like HTML or whatever, like back in the day when you had to do websites that way, you really needed to think about your file structures and stuff before you started. Otherwise, it'd be a mess. You know, you got to make all your subfolders and get everything ready. So that way, as you start to connect things, you don't lose them because you can't really move them midway through, right? Okay, so we can see here, again, it's called Untitled Session, but this folder here, oh, I didn't delete the other stuff that was in there before, but this folder here made new files. And then this one here is all the 4,000s. And of course, their names are not doubled. So it's as easy as that, you know. And again, you could do all kinds of things. You could have it go to a different hard drive. And just remember, I'd say just remember if you're going to do this, that if you do make a change like this, then you just make sure you go back and change it back after, or else you'll just always have that effect going on. Because it is basically permanent. Now you should be able to actually, again, I haven't done this before because I never do it this way, but the other way to do it is to, on the process recipe, would be to go to output location, right? And add the subfolder here. The only downside to this is it's going to do it to both things. It won't be independent, right? So if I do this and I change it to, let's say, test folder, and we hit process, it should actually put them in full. I didn't hit enter there, so hopefully it worked. Where are we? I'm in Dropbox again. I need to go to my output. Here we go, test. Right? Again, the numbers are doubled because they put them all in the same folder, whereas here they put them in large and small. So you see the difference, if that makes sense, right? If you do it here, it's a global adjustment, so all of your folders will go in there. All of your files, I should say, will go in there. If you do it up in the individual process recipe, it will do it just for those files that are being processed by that recipe, if that makes sense. So, I mean, you could also, like, let's say, for instance, you didn't want, like, I just call this models, but I could just call it 2,000 pixels, right? And then I could always make it, put a subfolder that's called 2,000, and then I'll always remember those are 2,000 pixels. I mean, it's easy enough to do that. And again, you can just add a subfolder like I did there, or you can move it somewhere. In fact, you could do the same thing. You could make a subfolder that's called the name of the files, you know? Because what I used to end up doing a lot is I would just go to the main output folder, and then I would like make a folder inside of it and move stuff around after the fact. But the reality is that you could actually, I mean, yeah, let's say that I only had these 3 addresses here and I didn't do all that prep work ahead of time, right? And I'm like, oh man, they want them in separate folders. Well, what I could very easily do is I'm like, okay, well, these ones here, these three are from, our address 123, right? So I'm just going to go down here, subfolder 123, and then hit process, right? And then I can grab the next three addresses, which are from, subset 456. Right? And then these last two addresses are from, address style 789. Right? And now what I'm doing is that I'm creating a series of subfolders for exporting for my client, right? So even though I didn't do it while I was working, because maybe I didn't think of it, or they didn't tell me they wanted that, or whatever reason, now I can go to my Finder, and we should see on the desktop, in Untitled Session, in my output, those three addresses are there, right? And we've got them all separated. So it's just a way to do it to save you. You can actually do it from within Capture One without having to go back into your Finder or whatever later and move things around. And again, maybe it's not hard for us because we're photographers and we do this all the time. But when you're delivering to a client, like again, if they're like, oh man, could I have thumbnails of all these? And they didn't ask you before, and they give you a thumb drive, you could shove their thumb drive into the side of your computer, set up this action, right? This process recipe, and then just go through and drop the images in. And, in 10 minutes, they have everything sorted and you don't have to think about it again. So that's just a good, quick way to do it. Hopefully that was helpful. Any other questions here, guys? Does that make sense? I think we covered all that, basically. I don't think that there was anything else that somebody asked me. Let me just quickly look through it and make sure there's nothing I could add to this. Again, I want to make sure I reset this. Oh, and I guess, I don't know if this is also relevant. What you could do here is, okay, so let's do one more, okay? I've got all these images, these 8 images of Erica, right? And what we want to do is we want to deliver them to her in a web-sized, we'll call it small and large, right? We want to give them to her 2,000 pixels and also 4,000 pixels. And we want to distinguish so that there's no mistaking the files. We want to sort them all, right? What we'll do is, what camera am I using? Then this I used an Nikon Z6. So what we'll do is we'll come here and we'll start with this one, right? Models. And I'll come in and make some adjustments, right? I'll go here. All this is going to be the same. I'll go to File. The output location, I'm going to add a subfolder, which I'm going to call Small, right? And then the other thing that I'm going to do, subname, I believe this is where this comes in. Let me just see what happens when we do this. I'm pretty sure this is how you use this. This one we're going to see, because I haven't actually tried it yet. And then we're going to hit this. Actually, no. Well, let's try it. I'm curious what that'll do. We're learning together. Because I have no idea what subname means. Because I've never used it before. You see it, these programs are so powerful. It's like you don't use every feature. I don't know why I keep closing that window. Huh. Didn't seem like it did anything. Because it would have put them there. Yeah, I don't see anything there. Didn't do anything. They must do something and I just didn't do it right. So I'm not going to worry about that. So the way that you're going to do it is you're going to come over here to small, right? Okay. And then we're going to go over here to our output location. Actually, what am I even doing? Sorry, guys. Instead of messing with my recipes, because I know I want to do this, I'm going to go here to models and I'm going to go, I got my output location. I'm going to go subfolder small and I'm going to go job name small. And then I'm going to go image name and I'm going to add to it job name. Okay. So now it's actually, I'm going to, just because I hate messiness, I'm going to go between these and I'm going to add an underscore. Okay. So now it's going to make a subfolder, right? Let me get rid of everything so we can start from scratch. Okay. So we're naked here. We got nothing, right? I have all 8 of these. She wants them those 2 different ways. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a subfolder. I'm going to add the job name, which I have called small, right? And add to the end of the image name. Well, I guess I need to drink more. I'm going to add job name to the end of my image name. I'm also going to put it in a folder called small. I'm going to click process. And what this is going to do is create a folder called small. And then in that folder, it's going to put all the images at the size that I wanted. And it's going to put at the end of it the word small, right? Now, I jump back over here and I go big. Big, right? I move to 4,000 and I go process. Now, the only disadvantage here is that because I am doing it this way, I have to do them independently. So I can't just like, if you had like 1,000 images, you'd have to do it twice as opposed to doing it one time, which you can do by modifying this. But I don't think that you can actually oh, I see. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Let me just see what's available here. Oh, that's interesting. It's funny you can't just put... Let me try something. Huh. Okay. Ah. Here we go. All right, so I'm over here in subname. I'm just going to write big. I think this should work now. I think you have to do it here. All right, let's see. Does not support a job that is blank. Oh, okay. Can't put a dash there. Okay, that's fine. I'm just curious where it'll go. I'm gonna put something I can find. Dimensions. All right, I'm just gonna put dimensions there. I'm just curious where it shows up, guys. Drive mode. No, emails. Huh. Wow, this has a lot of interesting stuff in here. Image day of the week. ISO. Oh, so I guess this is all just extra stuff you can tag onto this. I don't really want to do any of that. Okay, sorry, going around in a circle. Okay. DVD drives? Yeah, Dropbox is how I generally do it. Yeah. Well, it depends. When I used to do a lot more headshots for actors, I would usually give them a USB drive on the spot. So that way they felt like, I mean, since a lot of times actors are paying you in cash, like they at least feel like they're walking out with something physical. And then I would Dropbox them as well, you know, to make them easier to share. So I would do both things. I just felt like it was easy enough for me to do that. I feel like there's a way to do this that I'm just missing. Well, anyways, I guess that's how I have to do it. If I can figure out a way to do it so you can do them simultaneously, I'll let you know. I'm just trying to figure out what subname is. It's just something I've never used before. So interesting. Here we go. Well, you know what? When you don't know, Oh yeah, I know how to do that. How do you do the... Naming images and export can be achieved in blah, blah, process recipe tool using sequence tokens in the subname field and providing the complementary subname token is used in the output name to specialized tool intended to make preset. Oh, it's for presets. Okay, yeah, so you shouldn't do that. Okay, that's for presets. Select the combination of 4 sequence naming tokens. Sequence type, ID, count, and total. Oh, I see. Oh, boy. Oh, no. Okay, that's something we don't want to use for this. There you go. That's why I've never used it. That's like a very specialized tool. So basically, yeah, unfortunately, if you want to run multiple formats at the same time and you want to also change their name, your best bet is to just change their location and not their name. That's kind of a bummer, but yeah. Unless you can change it to trying to beat the system here. Nah. Okay. Can't really do it as far as I can tell. But if I can figure out a way to do it, I'll let you know, guys. So yeah, that's the only roadblock there. You can't change the name here and the location in the basic process recipe. You have to do it down here in output naming, which would affect everything. So the only thing I could say is you might be able to put because in our case we're just doing size. Yeah, maybe you could do that. Try that. Okay, so if we go output naming image name, then dimension, I'm gonna put an underscore there. Right? Then you could probably, and then here we could put your subfolder here is big, and then our subfolder here is going to be small. Let's go to the Finder for a second and make sure I cleared everything so we can see what we're doing. Get rid of, boy, my trash is going to be full of tons of folders called big and small. All right, let's try this one more time. I'm just going to do one image just to make it fast. So this one image, both these recipes with their little names in there, and then I'm adding the dimensions to the title. So let's see what happens when we do that. Oh, it did, yeah. Look at that. So, I mean, you could do that. The only problem with it is adding the original dimensions, not the dimensions of the export. So that means they're both going to be the same, which makes that not a way to do it. So if anybody knows how to do it, let me know. Otherwise, I'll try to figure it out by next week. Still like physical things for money, yeah. Yep. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that it's more of a psychological thing, I guess. Like if you walk into a store, okay, for instance, you could buy, anyways, I hope that made sense, guys. I know I went on a bit of a tangent there at the end because I was just trying to show something, but let me clear these out so they're not going to do that all the time, big and small for me. And that should be good. Good switch. There we go. Yeah, as far as the physical thing, I think it's really interesting, but I feel like too, like if you walked into a store, like if you were going to, let's say, buy, I don't know, Adobe Photoshop, if you could even still buy it in a package. If you walked into the store and gave somebody your credit card or whatever, let's say you went to Adorama, in your cash, and then they were just like, yeah, okay, when you go home, you can just download it. It's on your computer. You paid for it already. You would feel like you didn't buy anything. You don't mind doing it when you're actually at your computer because for some reason it feels more attached. So you need that box. In fact, for a while, a lot of software, they were literally giving you a box with just a code inside. And it's like they could have just You could have entered into your information on whatever, your email. But the reality is that people want to feel something physical if they're giving you something physical. So I don't know. Yeah. I do use Grammarly. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think that's it, guys. I mean, that's basically how I set this up. Hopefully, back to school. Prints or books or albums for portrait clients, Daniel. No, I don't really do that. I mean, you know, maybe sometimes. Oh, FTP. Oh yeah, that's old school. Um, people do, okay, so there's a couple of different business models in photography. There's many different business models. Mine was never that, which is the selling of the prints. If you're the type of person that does weddings, especially, but let's say you do senior portraits, which I mean, I'm not saying I haven't shot some of that stuff here and there, but if that's your business model, generally you want to set yourself up so that, like I used to share my studio with the woman who did, I probably said this before, pregnancy photos and baby photos, and that's what she did. Like she didn't give them big files to take home. She did the whole old school proof thing, and she would sell them large prints. And it's a different kind of client. Like the client that wants the whole hard drive full of images is to, and I don't mean to insult anybody, but that's your mid to low end client. Your high end people, they just want the product because they're not like, I want every images, I paid for it. They were happy to go in there and be photographed and just see proofs online and then pay another $1,000 for a 16 by 20, canvas print framed for their wall. That's a different kind of client. Um, so if you work towards that kind of client, then it's a little different. For me, for a while when I was doing actors headshots, I thought, oh, I could make a little bit of percentage by like handling this middleman stuff. But it's just easier for me to say, listen, come in, I will photograph you. You probably won't need any retouching because that's just how I shoot. Sorry to pat myself on the back, but 99% of the people that you see that I shoot don't get their images retouched. They don't need it. If they do need it retouched at all, which would be a minimal thing, like they had a pimple that day or whatever, most of the good printing companies, like Reproductions in New York and California, they charge you to do like the layout and the color separation for the headshot anyways, and they usually give you like 10 minutes of retouching as part of that. And those guys are expert retouchers. In 10 minutes, they're going to remove any pimple or whatever that you had on your face. It was a small thing. So trying to like milk people for money for those things, and again, I don't mean that in a negative way, it just wasn't worth it for me. I'd much rather just do the shoot and let somebody that's a pro at that do it. So same thing with printing. If somebody wants a print, I just give them the file to print it. I'll give them, I'm gonna spend time to like make a few bucks. No, not really, because I do it so rarely. If it was my business model and if I were selling beautiful albums and I was selling large prints, handmade prints, blah, 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 that's different. And I've done that for art prints when people have asked me, I mean, I've done it. I'm not saying I haven't, but it's just not my normal business model. So to answer your question very briefly is, no, I don't usually do that. If there's so many great companies out there though that print now that it's just amazing. You can like organize it, your files and have them printed beautifully for your clients. You don't need to like necessarily be like because it used to be like back in the day, if you weren't like a regular big wedding photographer, you just showed up at one of these places that did like the beautiful albums, you would be treated like a second class citizen because you didn't bring them $100,000 of business a year. You were just some guy that wanted a book printed once. So now it's not like that. It's all, everybody's the same. So you go to these places that do great printing and you can get amazing prints for your clients. You can mark them up, and make cash from it if that's how you want to operate. Yeah. Yeah, people do like to have prints. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just right, exactly. It's a completely different business. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, what you need to when you're printing, I mean, I know a bit about it. When you're printing, you need to have your color space and everything matched to you need to set your images up properly so that they will translate. Um, and usually, again, like a company like Reproductions will tell you how to do it. They'll say, have your photographer export them. I don't remember what it is now. Using these color, settings, whatever they are. Usually it's either something custom or it's something generic. They might say sRGB. Then when they get it in front of them, they will, with their color correct computers and their expert people, they will then change the color to match their printer. And that's basically how they do it. So good printers will do that. And if you're getting your headshots printed, hopefully you're getting them printed by a good printer. So a lot of people just do stuff online now, but and again, I don't sell to consumers for the most part, which is probably the most likely person to want to print. Because it's actually really funny. I mean, we're photographers, so we think, oh, well, everybody has a, inkjet printer and they're printing. I think over time, 10 years ago, everybody had a color inkjet printer in their house and they were printing all the time. I think if you surveyed a lot of people today, they don't have any printer because so few things need to be printed now. Like I know lots of people that don't own any printer. Like if they want something printed, they'd have to go to work to print it or whatever. They don't own a printer. It's just not something you have. So I think times change. People aren't printing as much themselves. So if you did want to make that part of your business, I don't see a problem with it. I think it could be really an interesting business model. Icc Profiles, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I'm curious about that whole thing with Printique with the sRGB because we discussed that before. They used to have profiles for all their papers, and when I used them when they were just Adorama pics, you would do it yourself. I would always do it myself. The main reason for that was because I found, and this is not to slight them at all, um, if you didn't put it to their profile, then they would have one of their people do it for you. But what that meant was that since they didn't save the files, every time you sent in the files to be printed again, they would have somebody else look at it and make a judgment of how they thought it looked best. So then the images didn't match. Like I had, I'd have like 4 or 5 copies of my portfolio, and like the image would look different in every one if I did that. So I made that mistake. So I stopped doing that, and I always did my own color profiles. But I never printed my own stuff from my portfolio. I always thought that labs did it better than I could do it. Yeah, I'd be curious too. I've seen good work from Printique. I haven't had any printed myself. I mean, but when it was at our picks, I used it all the time. In fact, I had this one client that did. They were like relatively small, so they actually literally it was cheaper for them to print 8x10 photos. I think there was like 200 of them per lookbook, and they made like 100 lookbooks or something crazy. I forget how many it was, but we used to print thousands of images through Adorama, and they did a great job. Once as long as I set the profiles, it was always good. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'm curious about the metal prints. I always see them and think, oh, they're really cool, but I never have done it myself. Um, but yeah, yeah. Let us know. I'd be curious. A scan for some documents. Yeah, no, it's well, now. Like for instance, I have an iPad or whatever, or you can probably use your phone or whatever, and a lot of times documents will come in, and you can drop it over my iPad, and I can literally sign it with the pencil, and then send it back as an email. Like I don't. I used to print it and then sign it, and then if I didn't want to set my scanner, I'd just take a picture of my phone. But now it's like I can literally do everything digitally. So I think that's where things are going. In any case, that's completely different than this. I think I'll be shooting. I'm 99% sure I'll be shooting on Thursday for Adorama. I believe, unless something happens and we don't set it up. I believe, and I have to dig in my pile of gear tomorrow. I believe I'll be using that Adorama 300 Java because they gave me one at one point for a video and I never gave it back. So it's in my storage somewhere. So we'll probably use that. We're going to do inexpensive lighting because we did an expensive camera or last time. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. That'll be really fun. That's always a fun one. Yeah, exactly. Contracts, exactly. All that stuff is digital now. I feel like so much less of it is needs to be printed these days. And like I say, I mean, for years I had inkjet printers always, so I could print out a photo or whatever. But I so rarely do that. Like my phone has such amazing resolution. If I want to carry a photo of my dog or something, I would just have it on my phone. I'm not going to print a picture and carry it around. It's just different time, different way of life. Anyways, guys, I'm going to go now and enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hopefully we will see you all next week. And yeah, stay healthy and keep shooting, I guess. I need a good sign-off thing. We'll try that one. Stay healthy and keep shooting. Something like that. So I hope that was helpful. Again, if you don't follow me on Twitch, you might as well jump over there and do that. That way you can join me on Sundays, right? If you have questions about this, if you have other process recipes, you're curious about things, you could put a comment down below, or again, join me on Twitch and we can talk about it live. In any case, if you don't already subscribe to this channel, go ahead and do so. Ring the bell. I'm getting a text, so I got to go, but I'll see you next time.